Welcome back to Dirtbag Cinema, and if you can believe it, it's Halloween once again. And you might think covering David Lynch because of that intro, but we're not. If you know, you know, and if you don't, we'll talk about that at a later date. But in all seriousness, it is almost Halloween. And so, classic me fashion, I had to drop in and give one more recommendation, one more mini review / recommendation, one more physical media little showcase recommendation mini review thing before Halloween hits. Just so, if you guys need something for your Halloween weekend, something to watch, something new maybe, something that's perfect for the season, I got something for you. So tonight's movie, it's one that has an absolute ton of Halloween soul. It's pretty unique in its own right. There's not a whole lot, if anything, quite like it. It is a love letter to the season of Halloween, to the spirit of Halloween, and to the late 80s. And maybe more accurately, late 80s broadcast television. This movie does such a good job of conveying what it's trying to be. It's like a million other things before it, but it's completely one of a kind at the same time. If you don't know what I'm talking about, let me introduce you for the first time to WNUF Halloween Special. This movie is such a good time. It goes down easy. You can just kick back, throw it on, and just kind of chill with it. It feels so at home with the Halloween season. It's like you're turning on your TV in the late 80s and you're catching that broadcast. Let me talk about the Blu-ray real fast before we dive into too much of the film itself. This Blu-ray is hot off the presses new. It came out in September, and up until this kind of definitive edition of the movie, there was just there was the Blu-ray, there was the DVD. And I had the DVD, and the DVD was fine. But it's so good to finally see this movie get the kind of the treatment that it deserves. Let's start with the packaging. First and foremost, you can already tell what they're leaning into. This nostalgia, this VHS kind of box. You've got like the date written on there. You've got like the Halloween stickers, right? The little duct tape label that calls out the movie. The VHS logo right there, the insignia. You've got WNUF on the spine. You flip it over, WNUF Halloween Special. I mean, it looks like a VHS, and it's even embossed, a little bit right there. If you can see like the texture and the light, to kind of it feels like the edge of the tape would. The back, it's got kind of what you would expect on a VHS, kind of like the playback and recording times that this VHS belongs to. Such a cool package for a movie that is set up to feel like it's straight out of the real world. Like this was recorded back in 87, and here it is for you to watch today. Pop this out of the slipcover real quick and you'll see straight away that this is you kind of get that you get the play. I mean, it kind of looks like the screen, that you would get when you're popping your VHS. So I remember when I was a kid, like you'd get home from trick-or-treating and you'd have your candy, you'd be all jazzed up from, all the fun and the festivities. You were nowhere near ready for bed. And if you were lucky, you didn't have school. So let's just, for the sake of argument, it's an open road, right? No school tomorrow, big bag of candy, still halfway in your costume. You plop down in front of the television and start eating your candy. And what's on? Monster movies, right? These weird late night double features they're old school classic Universal monsters, or like these 80s films that you would never see on a regular night, but they're playing just because it's Halloween. But before those double features would come on, a lot of times you would end up with your local broadcast station doing something a little different for the Halloween season to kind of, jazz it up. WNUF leans into that, the broadcast side of it. It's like as soon as the thing starts, it's like you have the two news anchors sitting there. It picks up with the local news, and they're sitting there at their desk in costume, and they're saying something like, you haven't tuned in to Transylvania's public access station. It's Halloween. And I mean, I'm sold. Like personally, I'm locked in. I'm like, oh, I've seen this guy before. Somewhere I've seen some news anchor trying to be all in the season, and it's just very corny, but it's very relatable, very memorable. And they do everything. The news stories, they have like actual, they've set up news stories and like investigative journalism type stuff. And then the commercials, that's really one of the highlights, I think, that how well done their commercials are. It's the attention to the detail that makes this, it feels 100% genuine. They sell it all with that little stuff, like commercials for pumpkin patches and maybe attorneys, I don't know, whatever, like real life commercials that you would see. This movie delivers it all. It delivers that whole feel like you're a kid again. Even if you didn't grow up with the like the late 80s, early 90s or whatever TV that you could see this on. If you don't really watch if you don't plop down in front of the evening news or whatever when you get home or whatever the hell's on TV, you could still get this like sense of like this genuine sense of almost like secondhand nostalgia, and very, very cool. Ultimately, where this movie's headed is the post news. There's this broadcast. The anchors keep alluding to it. It's Frank Stewart, and he's investigating the Weber house, and it's apparently some terrible stuff went down to the Weber house years ago. And is it haunted? Is it possessed? Is there something going on in the Weber house? And it's so cool because, like the way they frame this, like the whole town's going to turn up for it. This is a big event in the town. And you've got this like local couple that, they feel local, I guess. I mean, but they're like this, like if you have like a Ed and Lorraine Warren paranormal investigators, but you dial it back about 8 notches, that's who you've got going in here to validate the level of paranormal activity. And it's hilarious. It's like they're trying to put on a show, but then maybe things go awry. I would say that, I mean, if you have a heart for just the overall ambiance of the season, not it doesn't have to be like a haunted house or a really scary film, but just what happens in a community around Halloween and that feeling that comes with it. WNUF does such a good job of capturing that and relaying it in such a genuine fashion that you'd be like me, sitting there carving your pumpkin and you're getting ready to start your third time, but you didn't even realize it almost. It's like, let's just settle back and watch this. This feels about right for this season. And so, I went back and forth on this, trying to figure out exactly what I wanted to talk about, if I want to recommend a movie, had more than one movie. And what it really came down to for me was a movie that, after everything's said and done with this crazy month of October that we just went through, I mean, especially if you're talking about movies, release, a movie that you can just pop on and sort of escape into the season. Like it feels like a nice soak in everything Halloween for an hour, a little shy of an hour and a half. And I thought, you know what, that feels just about right for a jam-packed October that it's been. Let's talk about a movie. Let's watch a movie that just kind of sits us down in the season for a night and lets us just sort of marinate in Halloween until we move on to where it's 40 below and we're on to turkeys and stuffing and all that stuff. So, it's WNUF Halloween Special. I know I've talked about physical media a lot. I'll talk about it again. This is available on Vinegar Syndrome. Do this all for a reason. Everything's planned. Vinegar Syndrome. Pick this up. Take my word for it. But if you don't trust me, Shudder is where you can stream it. Grab a bucket of candy, kick back, and watch the movie that, no matter when you were born, makes you feel like you're a kid watching Frank Stewart figure out whether or not blood was spilled at the Weber house. WNUF Halloween Special. I hope you guys enjoy it. Happy Halloween, dirtbags. We'll talk soon.